On the day of the crime, 22-year-old seamstress Chan Chi Chan and her 19-year-old sister left Da Zhong Emporium and decided to drop by Tanglin Halt to visit their older sister. They walked down this way until they reached the roundabout that used to be here. Suddenly, the younger sister heard a cry from her older sister before she collapsed to the ground.
One life lost is too many, one too many.
Those hardcore criminals, they are not going to abide to your laws. If you want to shoot, you shoot. They will also out to kill you.
Singapore is known worldwide for being safe. In 2021, Singapore came in 4th on Global Finance magazine's World's Safest Countries Index. Gun violence here is extremely rare because firearms are strictly controlled. Offenders face severe punishment.
在丘德堡医院抢警枪并连开3枪的男子，今天在
In the 2015 Khoo Teck Puat hospital shooting, Muhammad Iskandar snatched a police revolver and fired 3 shots, injuring the officer. He was sentenced to life and 18 strokes of the cane. In 2009, death row inmate Tan Chor Jin, or One-Eyed Dragon, was executed for murder.
It is death for the man known as the One-Eyed Dragon.
One-Eyed Dragon had sneaked into a nightclub owner's house and killed the man with 5 shots. He was arrested 10 days later. These days, those committing gun violence face the death penalty. But this wasn't the case a century ago. Singapore was awash with guns in the 1920s. In 1925, the Malaya Tribute likened Singapore to gun-toting Chicago. The island's crime rate topped the Straits Settlements and Malaya. There were countless firefights between Chinese secret societies, as well as bloodshed involving businessmen. Many innocent people were hit by stray gunfire. In post-war Singapore, guns were used in one specific type of crime, kidnapping. Ho Kim Ki, also known as Kidnap King, committed more than 10 kidnappings and firearms crimes. Lo Ngut Fong, who ran a kidnapping syndicate, even had guns specially made for him. In the 1970s, firearm use in robberies greatly increased.
From 1970 to 1973, there were quite a few wanted criminals. The 10 most wanted criminals included the 1,000-faced two-gun thief Lim Ban Lim, Tan Chiang Lai, who was nicknamed Sweet Potato, and then there was the infamous Botak, who killed a police officer in 1973 during a minor traffic accident, and the Hassan brothers.
Elder brother Wahab and younger brother Mustafa were born into a big family. Mustafa spent his youth in a juvenile rehabilitation facility, and Wahab was a prison escapee. Working with a friend who supplied them with firearms, they began a spate of armed robberies.
The Hassan brothers was part of a robbery syndicate made up of a few people. They first started out robbing goldsmith shops and petrol kiosks, but their shooting skills were rather poor. During their first robbery, they messed up and ended up shooting one of their own accomplices.
After that, one of the accomplices surrendered to the police and revealed information about the syndicate, but the group continued robbing petrol kiosks and provision stores and even stole cars. As their accomplices were arrested one by one, the Hassan brothers went into hiding in October 1972. But their days were numbered because of one police detective.
This is Labrador Forest. Right now, everything has been changed. It's 49 years since the incident happened on 29 October 1972. About 12 p.m., I was here on a Sunday doing my work. I came with my 2 off-duty policemen just for rounds. While I was having my drinks here, I saw this mini car coming up. So they came towards the store, ordered drinks. I looked at his waistband. There was a bulge. I spoke in Hokkien, telling my 2 colleagues, you have to be prepared. The guy got a gun.
By chance, Davy Chan had run into Mustafa and his friend.
That goes down right to the beach. I wanted to check them. So I shouted, "Police, berhenti!"
Saya pun polis. Jangan lari.
So in order to frighten them, I took out my gun and shouted,
Angkat tangan. Letak senjata. Aku tembak. Angkat tangan. Angkat. Letak
and he
senjata.
grabbed his friend and hold him as a shield in front of him. But when I look at the shield who was holding the drinks, he's not armed. In my mind, I say I cannot shoot an unarmed man. It goes like that, bang, bang. As soon as I open fire, the guy holding the gun must have squeezed the trigger. I felt a jerk, and I do not know where I was hit. My mind said, take up the gun, but my fingers don't move. I was paralyzed. Honestly, I feel nothing. It's just that my neck was very hot and I'm very thirsty. So that is the kind of feeling. The pain came when I was admitted to the hospital. Now you have ever sat down, crossing your feet, and then you find one of your feet is numb. So when you take it down and try to put it on the floor, you can't do it. The pain is like needles hitting your nerves. Well, it was through the papers that I came to know of their names.
Davy Chan was shot by the younger Hassan brother Mustafa, who was himself shot by Davy. Mustafa was arrested that same night. Over a month later, Wahab barged into the hospital armed and freed his brother.
They were very daring because they were armed with guns, and they resisted arrest by shooting at anyone who would stand in their way. It was indeed an era of shootouts.
Why were shootouts common in Singapore back then? And where did the firearms even come from? Singapore, 1970s, a time when murder, robberies, and kidnapping were likely to involve guns. Firearms were abundant because the previous colonial government had failed to control them effectively. In the days of colonization, it was common for European cargo ships to carry firearms. In fact, guns were sold legally during the early 20th century. It was easy for someone with a license to purchase a gun. They were even available at family-friendly department stores. Of greater concern were illegal firearms. Early immigrants came to Singapore armed with guns, which proved useful during shootouts between secret societies.
My name is Lee Swee Tin. I was a superintendent of police. My last post was as an assistant director CID. We must try to trace back why there were so many gun incidents during the 1965 to 1970. After the Japanese occupation came the British military administration. After that, Indonesian confrontation, Vietnam War, Cambodia War, coup d'etat in Thailand. All this political upheaval has given a lot of opportunity for gun smuggling to Singapore.
Back then, border security wasn't as tight, resulting in guns being easily smuggled in from neighboring countries. Gang leaders and secret societies would use these guns to commit robbery and other crimes.
The guns used by the brothers came from Thailand. They were rented. Supplying firearms was a lucrative business back then. The brothers were supposedly involved in Malay secret societies.
In 1960 and 1970, there were about 120 secret societies in Singapore. All the smuggling of firearms all came by boat in the middle of the night. Singapore is an island. All around our coastal area, a lot of vulnerability to come in. At that time, we do deploy officers to look out for all these smugglers. But with so extensive coastline, they managed to find nooks and corners to sneak in, although few were arrested also.
I started working at the newspapers in the 1970s. In the 1970s, 1972 and 1973 were the most violent years. In just that year alone, in Singapore, there were around 72 people that died violent deaths.
You go and rob using knife, which honestly, nobody's scared of you.
All the criminals, they possess guns to give them a special status, special recognition, If I had a gun, the underworld people will respect me tremendously.
On 18 September 1972, a young lady suddenly collapsed at a Queenstown roundabout, a bloody wound on her chest. Police officers arriving at the scene thought she had been stabbed. It was only later that they realized it was a gunshot wound.
Whenever a new HDB new town was built, all the secret society gang members muscle in, try to occupy certain areas, or they call it to establish their own operational grounds. And sometimes it's through a lot of gang fight.
Was the mystery bullet that claimed an innocent life fired during a turf war between secret societies?
The death of Tan Chi Chan, the seamstress killed by a mystery bullet, is indeed Singapore's most baffling and unsolvable case. She clutched her chest and collapsed on the ground. It was only when she was sent to the hospital did the doctors realize that she was shot by a firearm. The bullet pierced her heart and proved fatal.
Before the amendment of the Penal Code in 1984, there were rampant street robberies and secret society activities involved in protection racket. But Queenstown is quite a peaceful area. DZ was an unknown person, just a seamstress. What value, what enemy did she have? What enemy?
The case made the headlines. Police canvassed the surrounding flats one by one and confiscated 6 rifles and a handgun for ballistic testing. Back then, it was legal for some citizens to own firearms. Retired military officer Alex Tay is a senior member of the Singapore Rifle Association. He owns firearms, but strict regulations mean he no longer owns automatic and semi-automatic rifles.
Okay, what I have here today is my gun license. This is from the 80s. License to possess arm. There are pages here that tell you exactly what you can do, what you cannot do. You start off with the first one. It was $30 over here. And then become 60. I think along the way it became 100. Okay, and then yeah, just increased 200. And today is 220 per year. This is delivery order for 500 rounds of bullet, okay? And there's a permit number there. So every time you want to buy bullet, you need to apply for a permit.
In the 1970s, a lot of people having firearms. You are gainful employed, you are quite a good employment. We approve a firearm for you to carry air rifle, to go for shooting of wild animal. Some people go to a gun club for practices.
In 1972, police confiscated firearms from gun owners in Queenstown for ballistic tests, but they revealed nothing. 6 people told the police they heard the gunshot, but no one saw the gunman. 50 years on, Chan Chi Chan's case remains unsolved. The killer may still be alive.
Table. Kau letak duit kat kau ni. Hey!
Even with the police on their trail, the Hassan brothers continued robbing businesses. Mustafa and a friend had a run-in with police detective Davy Chan. An encounter Davy Chan was lucky to survive. That very night, Mustafa was arrested and sent to the hospital for treatment.
I shot him and he shot me. In fact, both of us are in the hospital. It was about 20 to 30 feet away. Mustafa claimed that Muhammad Dom shot me and not him. The inspector told him, "You thought Davy Chan is dead, is it? You take a look at the other window." Then he turned his face and I turned my face. Then he knew that I was not dead. Then he admitted he was the one who shot me.
13th December 1972, more than a month since the gunfight. Mustafa was in custody in hospital.
Well, I was paralyzed only for 5 days. After 5 days, I was out.
Mustafa had sustained an abdominal injury, but had almost fully recovered.
Mustafa was sent to the Singapore General Hospital, known then as Outram Hospital. Wahab went there, overcame the guard and took his gun, and then helped his brother escape. At that time, nothing like that had ever happened at the hospital.
Those hardcore criminals, they are not going to abide to your laws.
While escaping with his brother, he also hijacked a taxi and almost shot the taxi driver.
Two days after Mustafa was rescued, the police received a tip-off from a family member about the whereabouts of the Hassan brothers. On the run and with nowhere to go, the two of them escaped to the Jalan Kubur Muslim cemetery, where they were heavily surrounded by the police.
I had joined the press less than 2 years ago and was really excited to receive the news. 4 to 5 of us on the crime news team rushed to the cemetery. We took cover behind some vehicles. There were already thousands of people gathered outside the cemetery. The police had already cordoned off the whole area surrounding the Jalan Kubur cemetery.
I am Kewal Singh, Agent Singapore Police Force. I was posted to the PRU Queensway. We received a message about the Hassan brothers, and then 4 of us volunteered. We arrived with our OC at the Jalan Kubur, that is beside the cemetery. We were immediately led into the cemetery. We came across a hut and we went in to search.
Sir.
We shined our torchlight and saw there was a mat, a bottle of Dettol, and cotton wool. Looking towards the direction where the shot came from, we saw the 2 figures running away from the caretaker's hut into the far end of the cemetery.
The police tactical unit, PTU, used tear gas grenades. In the midst of the smoke, we heard 2 to 3 gunshots.
After the shot, we also replied 1 or 2 shots. After that, there was total silence. We moved forward here, searching for them.
Serah diri! Angkat tangan dan maju ke hadapan!
From a distance, we saw the figure behind the tree.
I'm going to crawl over and take a look. Cover me in case they start firing again. Remember, aim high.
Yes, sir.
I'm in the police force for what purpose? My duty, I have to do it. You don't think of your families. Nothing comes into your mind at that time.
According to online resources, since the 20th century, Singapore has lost more than 20 police officers to gunfire. In the 1960s and 70s, 7 police officers died from gunfire, most of them sustained in the line of duty. None of the gunmen involved possessed a firearm license. As a member of the Singapore Rifle Association, Alex Tay has been bound by many regulations since applying to possess firearms in the 1980s.
Everyone can apply, but whether you get, approved is another thing altogether. The applicant have to be of good standing without any criminal record. Today, 2021, there's a new set of stricter firearms law. Between two licensed gun owners, we should not even, handle each other's guns. So they make it that strict.
On 16 December 1972, the police weren't dealing with law-abiding gun owners. They were after the notorious Hassan brothers. They had heavily surrounded the brothers and were expecting them to surrender, but that was not what happened.
I moved forward, and after a few minutes, I arrived at the back of the figure. He's holding a pistol in his right hand. Yeah, he said he's dead. I took the pistol and looked for the other brother. I think he's lying there. This is the place where I found Wahab's body facing the sky, and he's holding a revolver near to his head. I believe he shot himself.
So the Hassan brothers, we know, actually chose to end their own lives, right? So there are many reasons why people do this, right? I think the most obvious reasons was that they knew that they were in a difficult position. They were already surrounded by police officers, and there was no way out. They didn't want to be caught by the police. Why? It could be maybe shame. Even among the criminal world, there's this sense of pride within themselves. I don't want to be caught and arrested by the police because it's embarrassing for me. The other reason could be they have, psychologically come to a situation where they feel that enough is enough. They felt that it is the last few hours for them and they're prepared to leave the world.
The brothers had already experienced life without freedom, Wahab in prison and Mustafa in juvenile rehabilitation. Were they desperate to avoid incarceration at any cost?
We don't really know, because we can never get into an individual's mind to understand why they did what they did.
The Hassan brothers died as they lived, by the gun. Both succumbed to gunshot wounds. In 1972, 22-year-old seamstress Chan Chi-chan also died from a fatal gunshot. She was not a gang member, just an ordinary young woman shot at a Queenstown roundabout.
No one knew what had happened to her. Suddenly, the younger sister heard her elder sister cry out before collapsing to the ground, bleeding from her right chest. By the time we received a phone call and rushed to the scene, she was already sent to the hospital. There were no witnesses we could interview. 10 hours later, the seamstress Chan Chi-chan passed away at the hospital.
The police examined the evidence at the scene.
Because the bullet went through the heart, she dropped and died. The bullet was traced to a .22. So .22, it can be from a handgun or from a rifle.
Quite a number of years ago, people actually are allowed to keep rifles at home. But because of the Tanglin Hawk incident, they actually round up all the licensed gun owners that had pistol and rifle of .22 caliber.
The police questioned thousands of gun owners, running ballistics tests on their firearms, but yielded no results. There were three theories floated about this case.
According to the younger sister, she mentioned that there was actually no gunshot heard when the sister fell to the ground. So with regards to how this shot came about, there are actually three possible theories. The first is that it was actually done by a sharpshooter in one of the nearby HDB flats, either in the Tanglin Halt HDB flats or the Stirling Road HDB flats. For this shot to be so precise, to occur over a long distance and be lodged in the elder sister's chest would require a telescopic lens. However, there was actually no one known to own such a lens at that time. The second theory is that there was actually a misfired shot from the nearby police station located over here. Considering that this is actually a shot that came from a further distance, this is even more unlikely. In addition, there was actually no reported misfire that occurred at that time. The third theory is that there was actually a vehicle travelling down Commonwealth Avenue, heading past Queen's Circus, and as it was driving past Queensway, a shot, intentional or accidental, was actually fired, and this hit the sister in the chest.
My own theory is that it was on a Sunday afternoon. Many people in the year of 1972, they go for overnight hunting or early morning hunting. They go for shooting of flying foxes in Macritchie, Jurong, and Choa Chu Kang. In those days, most cars were not air-conditioned. And in all probability, the chap might be on the way home. And he might have pulled the trigger and misfired.
So, assuming that this is an intentional shot, what could you comment as a psychologist about the profile of the shooter?
Based on the evidence, very little evidence and very clean crime scene that was found, it is likely that the shooter is an organized killer typology. This sort of killer would plan their offenses, they would come with a weapon, and they would clean up the crime scene and take all the evidence with them.
If such an incident is still to occur today, then there are actually new forensic technologies such as 3D scanning, as well as using lasers to more accurately pinpoint where the shot might have come from. Imagine you are facing me face to face and you fire a shot at me. This shot would hit me at approximately 90 degrees. However, if you were standing a distance away and perhaps in a HDB flat, when the round actually hits me, it will actually come at a gentler angle of maybe about 70 degrees. Based on the entry wound on the body, forensic pathologists will then be able to predict what angle this round hit the body and hence where the shooter might have been.
How can ballistic testing and modern forensic technology help in solving firearms cases?
If the bullet is found intact, the caliber of the bullet can then help police narrow down their search for the gun. There could be striations or other trace evidence, such as gunshot residue that is left behind on the bullet.
We will compare these characteristics using the microscope. The lines that you see now are the characteristics of the bullet. Our job is to find the similarities to determine if they were shot from the same gun.
But we need the original gun to do this. If the original gun is not found, then this comparison cannot be done.
A seamstress killed walking in broad daylight. It made everyone fear for their own safety. However, anti-gun sentiments truly erupted only after the death of a young policeman. On 12th July 1973, a heated argument erupted and quickly escalated between a bus driver and a motorist in the Joo Chiat area.
It was a traffic accident and the drivers were arguing. Ong Po Heng wanted to be the peacemaker.
Newly married off-duty police detective Ong Po Heng, a passenger on the bus, intervened.
Police, stop arguing.
He was shot twice and died on the spot. The killer even brazenly took Ong's revolver before leaving the scene.
You see, once you identify yourself as a police officer, to you is an innocent identification. But to the gunman, you may want to arrest him, you see. So he had to open fire first.
Police offered a cash reward of $10,000 for the suspect. There were quite a few bystanders at the shooting, but nobody came forward. Through their own network of informants, police found a suspect.
It was unfortunate that he died innocently because of trying to intervene and try to settle the dispute between the motorist and the driver.
This gunman was nicknamed Botak. He was also a wanted criminal in Malaysia. Around 10 days after off-duty police officer Ong Po Heng was killed, Botak was ambushed by the police at a condominium near the Istana and shot to death.
Gun crimes had been a threat in Singapore for decades. Ong Po Heng's death accelerated the government's clampdown on firearms. The Arms Offences Act was introduced in August 1973 to tighten regulations on gun ownership and made punishments more severe for gun crimes. These included caning and the death penalty.
Now, prior to the Armed Offences Act, Chapter 14, implemented on 8 February 1974, the punishment for armed robbery with firearm, normally 7 years to 10 years. But nowadays, if you commit armed robbery with a firearm, whether you use it to fire a shot or you don't fire a shot, the penalty is death sentence.
Most importantly, whether intentional or unintentional, firearm discharge during an armed robbery will result in a death sentence. In the past, murderers or drug traffickers were executed. Now, anyone who shoots dies.
You see, firearms itself is a very big thing in Singapore. It's not in America. So if you bring in an arm, you are caught, you are going to get a big number of years. And if you use a firearm, you're going to get sentenced to death.
The first gunman sentenced to death under the new law was Shah Bakar. He shot and wounded 3 people at a brothel and opened fire on the police along Thiam Siew Avenue. He was sentenced in September 1975. Just a month later, hawker Talib bin Haji Hamza became the first man to be sentenced to death as an accomplice in 2 armed robberies. Even an accomplice to an armed robbery would now face the full force of the law.
I was the deputy public prosecutor who prosecuted his case. And when he lost the case and appealed, I was also the DPP against the titan of criminal law at that time, David Marshall. There was an off-duty auxiliary or police officer who was shot by one of the occupants using the firearm in the car. From where he was, he stooped down straight away and the bullet was lodged above him. But David Marshall made good use of this defense to say that no, the person who used firearm at that time to fire was not actually firing at the police officer. Rather, he was firing at random to scare people. Therefore, he cannot be said to have used a gun in the sense of the word use. And consequently, it applies likewise to the accomplice at the scene of crime. So this, in fact, was the basis of the amendment in 1973. There is no requirement on the prosecution to prove intent on the part of the gunman.
The new legislation had an immediate impact. The number of armed robberies declined sharply. Strengthening the police force and enforcing stricter gun laws had finally yielded results.